This is the best country on the planet, but with the worst set of politicians in our history. It's time for a political earthquake.
Our guest today is Peter Sceats, British businessman who is our prospective Member of Parliament for Bethnal Green and Stepney. He has now chosen to be the representative of Reform Party UK. What sparked your interest?
My country's membership of the European Union. I was just fantastically against it from the start. Power corrupts people.
Mr. Farage is not going to condemn Israel, is he?
But of course, there wouldn't be any offence if they hadn't gone into Israel and chopped off babies' heads. It's very, very difficult to be an angry terrorist if you're wealthy.
Imagine you guys were elected. Would you then stop backing Israel?
I would refer you to my earlier comments.
I hope you guys will enjoy this conversation with Peter and myself. If you do enjoy our conversation, please don't forget to subscribe onto the platform you are tuned into, as it is your subscription that motivates us to keep edging forward episode by episode. And inshallah, with you by our side, we will reach the top. With that said, let's invite Peter onto Side by Side.
So I'm Peter Sceats. I run our Sceats family office, which has grown out of a utilities brokering company. I've worked in the energy market pretty much all of my life. I'm a tiny, tiny bit famous in one part of the energy market because I invented the coal index upon which the international coal market is now based. And that was a really positive thing for my career and has given me the wonderful, colourful life that I've had. My background, I'm from a East End family. Granddad was Bethnal Green, born in Daniel Street, which is near Turin Street. It's not there now. He spent most of his time in Wilmot Street, which is just down the road from the Salmon and Bull. Dad was brought up in Stepney. And most interestingly, I stopped myself from going crazy during lockdown 2 by doing my family tree, which was a wonderful thing to do. I think everyone should do it. I think kids should be made to do it at school because it gives you a context of who you are. And my background, very surprisingly, it turns out I'm Irish. No idea.
An immigrant, is it?
Absolutely. So we apparently came over. I think curiously, both sides of my family came over. Dirt poor. I'm going to have to watch my normal language. I would have said something else there.
No. Be who you are.
All right.
Be who you are. Don't be abnormal or normal. Just be who you are.
Arse hanging out your pants, poor. And they replaced, I guess, being starving in Ireland to grinding poverty in Gloucestershire. And then in the 1790s or so, a large portion of my family came down to Bethnal Green. And I guess exchanged agricultural grinding poverty for Bethnal Green style grinding poverty. And my family has kind of clawed its way up over the generations, and I'm here now. That's
amazing.
Me.
So, Bethnal Green, born and bred?
Not me. Dad and Granddad. Mm-hmm. They were full-on Cockneys. But my parents met in Hackney just before the Second World War. And they moved out to Chingford. Lots of East London families went out to Chingford Chelmsford, Basildon, Clacton. There's been a lot of, that's been the kind of movement. I suppose a few of them also moved out to the coast via Kent and South London. But so I was born in Chingford, which at the time was just in Essex, but now it's Chingford, London E4. So I'm East London, from an East London family, but I'm not a Cockney. And if you're from my family and my background, that matters. So like whether you were born in the sound of Bow Bells, right, which is the definition of a Cockney. And even on a clear day, you couldn't hear Bow Bells from Chingford. So I'm not a Cockney, but my dad and my granddad are.
Wow. So you're in coal industry as well. So what the index that you're talking about, what is it? Is it some sort of a metric or measurement that people go by? What is it?
I worked in the energy market, and I was around at the time that electricity was being liberalised. And electricity being liberalised and competition coming to electricity prices. By the way, I'm not sure it ever really did, but anyway, that was the idea. Meant that there was going to be more kind of competition and price volatility in gas and coal. Gas had a index that the gas index could use as a reference price. Coal at the time really didn't. It had just like a group of different people that would say, we think the coal price is X in this port, we think it's Y in that port. And I guess I was the first person to realise that coal really needed one central price, or in those days, two, one in Europe and one in South Africa, which is where the price setting coal came from. And so I came up with something called the All Publications Index, which was taking three rather poor indices, poorly put together indices, and put them in a basket to kind of spread the risk. And I knew it was the right thing to do. I didn't have a plan B at the time. That was my career big idea. That was it. And I had absolutely no idea that it would grow how it did. So something like $500 billion of business across the coal market, power station companies, coal mining companies, traders and everything, and banks, have their risk linked to a number that I invented.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So it's the institutions that use your index?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Banks, power station companies, coal companies.
So was it computer programmed or was it human programmed? How was it?
No, it was very old school, a bit like me. So at first it was basically taking, and I'm going back to, like I came up with the idea in 96, 97. So, and I launched the index in April 1st, 1998. And at first it was just taking the three coal reports that were coming, that got to me by fax, lifting out their rather second-rate coal prices, putting them into Excel, added them together, divided them by three, and then I put it in another newsletter and sent it out and hoped for the best. And it went utterly viral. You know, I had no idea that it would get that big. And because of that, I think I wish I'd have somehow built in a way that I got 0.5 cent every time it traded, but sadly I didn't. But I've got a lot of positivity from that regardless. So most of the contracts that I get offered are because people have come to know me because I did something high profile back then. So, you know, I'm enormously thankful, you know, for having that idea. It changed my life.
Fantastic. So you're not only into index, but you were an investigator as well. And
yes.
Money laundering and, you know, so many other things.
Yeah, well, the thing is, all of it, when I look back over my career, it looks rather obvious of being like an energy broker and then being an energy trader and then being a risk management consultant and coming up with the idea for a index. And then law firms would then ask me to help the court figure out what the right quantum was for a litigation when one coal company has an argument with another about price. And so I got into being a expert witness and helping courts settle cases. And from there, on a few cases, just by virtue of reading the trial bundle, I was able to say, by the way, this isn't the dispute that you think it is. Actually, there's some nefarious things going on. And the reason that I know that is because I'm a commodity nerd. I'm a coal nerd and I can spot it. And that led me to working with international law enforcement agencies. So I've worked with lots of regulators and the European version, one European version of the American FBI. So in some really big frauds, which
Wow.
I obviously can't talk about, but it's an honour to be asked. And it all came really from taking three rubbish coal prices and putting them together.
Wow, and of course you've upset a lot of people along the way as well as part of your job.
Well, I have. My expert witness practice now is very busy, but I don't ever get hired by the bad guy. The bad guys know who I am, and they're like, we don't need him as our expert. I get hired by the guy that's been wronged. But that works for me because it actually makes my job very easy. I just have to read the stuff, give my opinion, and tell the truth. And so these days, I get paid handsomely for telling the truth. And I can do that all day.
Amazing, amazing. So what sparked your interest for politics?
The politics. What got me into politics? So I was always interested when I was a kid. And I can remember, although I didn't do fantastically well at school, goodness knows, I can remember one of my projects for I think it was an English exam, was me describing what the three parties were. And in those days, it was the Liberal Party, which kind of exists now but doesn't, and then the Conservative Party and Labour. And in those days, I can remember, even though I was like 15 and really didn't know my arse from my elbow. There we go. You said I could speak normally, but I kind of the setup that we had at the time. One party based on free enterprise and low taxes. Another party that were socialist and very pro the working man, the welfare state. They had a great track record with the cooperative society, great roots, and founded the NHS. Yeah, and then the Liberals, whose thing was at the time proportional representation. And workers' representation on company boards. I could see I wasn't kind of particularly attracted to any of them. I could see that there was validity in all of those things, but I wasn't really kind of really motivated one way or the other. That was in the 70s. I grew up in a very in a time of racism. England was in London was compared to now, a very racist place. It was unsavoury. And so that was my start. But more recently, the thing that got me involved is that in my home ward, in the council elections, I found out that the Conservative councillor had somehow won a fencing tender. So the councillor put out a tender to say, we need to build fences around this park or whatever it was, right? And somehow the tender's won by one of the Conservative councillors. And I'm like, how on earth can that happen? How does a councillor think that he could win, effectively, his own tender, right? And I was absolutely horrified. So what
was the name of that councillor? Are you allowed to say?
No, I kind of shouldn't say so. But it was a flipping Tory. That's all you need to know. It's a flipping Tory. And I decided to run against him, which was a rather pointless thing to do in leafy Brentwood, right? Because the Conservatives in that area could literally put up a goat, and it would get elected, right? But I was horrified, and I thought someone needs to do something, and so I ran as an independent, and I came second, and I beat the Labour Party and the Lib Dems and the Greens. Which was cool. I still lost to the Tories, but that was the thing that kind of got me involved, really. And then the other thing that inspired me with regards politics was my country's membership of the European Union. I was just fantastically against it from the start. And I was against it not for the reason that lots of people cite. I was against it because of basic democracy. The thing is with the EU, if you're an EU state, right, you cannot vote out the people that run it. You can't. You simply can't. You could have, you have EU elections to the Parliament, but it actually doesn't matter because the Parliament has no power. The EU is a dictatorship. The EU is effectively, if you follow the money, and I'm an investigator of, of that kind of thing, if you follow the money, I saw, the EU as a quasi dictatorship and furthermore a greater Germany. And I was horrified by it, almost right from the start. And when you see what their policies, particularly with the euro, did, the euro bankrupted Greece, Portugal, Ireland, Spain, almost. Democracy, I think, is proper democracy is the only way forward, and it's much better if democracy is closer to the people and run locally.
So, does democracy work? I mean, it doesn't seem to be working the way I see it.
Well, I can't disagree.
So what do you bring to the table? How are you going to restore democracy, the one that should work?
Okay, good question, and I'm pleased you asked it. Here's my thing, and let me give you a 1 minute story before I actually give you the answer. I worked for 4 years. I've been very lucky with my career, so I've worked in lots of other countries, and I've been all around the world. Right, I lived for 4 years in Switzerland, right, where they have a different type of democracy. And before I explain further, can you name the Swiss president?
No.
Okay, I lived there for 4 years, neither can I, right?
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. It's because every decision in Switzerland is made by referendum. Everything. So I used to commute to work from my flat. You know, I'd ride round Lake Zug to my office, right? And every 3 months there would be advertisements on the side, political ones for whatever was the referendum for that quarter. It could be the definition of what organic means. It could be literally anything. The people made the decisions and the politicians implemented and managed things, right? Now, what has that done for Switzerland? Well, it has no mineral resources whatsoever, right? But somehow it sits there in the middle of Europe. It's very wealthy, right? There is a fantastic pension. They've never invaded another poorer country. They've never got caught out bombing a primary school somewhere. They've never tried to change someone else's president because they don't like the look of it. That seems to make sense to me, right? They care about people and being happy and being peaceful. Well, that makes sense. And so I think that if I believe in proportional representation, right? First past the post, which is what we have obviously in this country, is a disaster, right? It winds up with a binary choice, right? You know you're going to get 80% of the time the flipping Conservatives.
So, you mentioned Switzerland, interesting, because you said they don't invade anyone, they don't go and attack anyone.
No.
Do you think, in that case, and if British government withdrew from all the countries they're present in, directly or indirectly, there would be some sort of peace and a better prospect for British people here at home?
I don't think that, I mean, whether bringing our troops home from the bases we've got in Cyprus or not, I don't think that would make any difference. But I think whenever there's a emergency on the other side of the world, there's some kind of war, right? I'm not sure that it's our place to rock up and say, we agree with this side or we agree with that side, right? The thing is, in certain parts of the world, people are going to be tearing each other to shreds for another 100 years, just like they've been tearing each other to shreds for the previous 1,000 years. The best thing that Britain can do is help to, when these things happen, is help to create safe havens. So people that aren't combatants can sit it out while these idiots.
But then again, you guys want to block as well at the same time the safe havens that you want to create.
I don't.
Well, your party does.
My party? Reform?
Yeah.
What do we want to block? What do we want to block?
I mean, immigration is a big issue for you guys.
Immigration is very... You're asking me about wars and whether we should get involved. My answer is no. What should we do instead of accidentally bombing primary schools in warm places? What should we do? Not even be there, right? But if you want to get on to immigration, I'm delighted. What's the question?
Hey guys, I hope you have been enjoying today's episode of Side by Side with myself, Kazi Shafiqur Rahman, and our guest, Peter Sceats from the Reform Party, who's standing as a representative of Reform Party for Bethnal Green and Stepney. If you have been enjoying our conversation so far, please don't forget to subscribe onto the platform you are tuned into. It is your subscription that motivates us to keep edging forward episode by episode. Now let's get straight into the show. Okay, before we get to question, I want to talk about something else.
Sure.
Brexit.
Yes.
You were a very active campaigner for leaving the European Union.
Correct.
And obviously you've described some of the reasons. I mean, what happened after Brexit? You guys promised the world. There was like 11 promises or something. Has any of them materialized for the general public?
Have any of them materialised?
The red
Some
bus,
have.
the red coach that we remember, 350 million for the NHS every week. Has it happened?
Well, I tell you what, I'm not the guy to apologise for Boris Johnson, right? Not my party.
But you backed the referendum.
I did, yeah, and I backed it out of my principles, right, which I've explained, right, and I can't speak to, and I'm not here to apologise for anything that that Boris says, whether Boris's NHS bus number winds up eventuating anyway under Labour next time round, and it probably will, is a different issue.
I mean, it's not a blame game. I'm not saying you are responsible, but you did vote for it.
I absolutely did, and if it came round again, I'd do exactly the same thing for the same reasons: democracy.
But if democracy doesn't deliver, then why would you?
Well,
you're a businessman. You're a very smart person. You've created the index. I mean, from what I've heard, you're very analytical. You stand up for justice. You wanted to create a just system for indexing the pricing.
Yes, I did.
So on one side, it hasn't delivered once. Why would it deliver again?
Well,
how?
I would argue with you that it hasn't delivered. I think in parts it has, but one needs to separate the act of leaving a superstate and gaining one's independence, right, which is what I was about, with what the Tory party's machinations and how they balls things up, right? There is no question, right, that since for the last 14 years, I mean, if you separate Brexit, which was a decision by the people, not politicians, thank goodness, what have they done right? What have they nailed? I mean, nothing.
They got us through pandemic, Conservative stories, no?
Yeah, well, they did, but did we need the reaction to the pandemic that we got? And, the jury's out on that. The jury's out on the vaccine. The jury's out on the messaging. And I think we'll be arguing about it for years. That time was a hell time for the world, right? And unfortunately, I think any party that was in during that time would have had a tough time, right? I mean, that's clear.
So it's not just Rishi Sunak's brilliance. Is that what you're saying?
Rishi Sunak is not brilliant. He might have been brilliant at making money within a hedge fund, and he might have been really brilliant when he married an extraordinarily rich lady, but he is no politician, and he is going to get his arse handed to him in the next few weeks.
I mean, look, someone has to be smart. Like, you're standing for Bethnal Green and Stepney. I mean, people wouldn't vote someone in who's very stupid, would they? They have to be smart to begin with. So surely he's got some credibility. I mean, I'm not in favor of anyone. I don't know where we stand as a community, as a BAME community, but he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, no?
No. And I would challenge you on the idea that someone that makes it through to being an MP and then makes it through to being like a cabinet minister, I would challenge you on that by definition, meaning it's smart, meaning that they're smart.
So they don't have to be smart?
No, they have to be, you have to be political to move up within a political party, right? So you have to be consistently friends with the right people, and that's some would say that's an art, right? I have no respect for it whatsoever, right? You won't ever see me as like trying to get a better job inside my reform, my party reform. I don't care. I absolutely don't care about being the deputy leader or anything, right?
But you're saying that now, though. But as you get closer, I'm sure, this whole inclination would come, as it happens with anything in life, money, power.
I can tell you absolutely with me that it wouldn't, because if I get elected as an MP, which in Bethnal Green and Stepney, which will be a long shot, goodness knows.
So
right?
you already know, it's the chances are quite slim.
Well, they are because of and one sees there's a forecast, there's electoralconsensus.com or something, right? Well, they say I'm going to get 1.7% of the electorate, and there is a 100% chance that Labour's going to win, right? So could I have, if I was political myself, I probably would have spent years making friends with Richard Tice and making sure that I got the second or third best constituency after Richard and Nigel, such that I had a chance. That's not me. I'm too busy making money and taking care of my family with my business. The politics thing that I'm doing is a passion. And make no mistake, if I get elected as an MP, I'm taking a massive pay cut to do that job, right? I'm not doing it for money. I'm also not that comfortable about the spotlight, to be honest. Because, and I've seen that from campaigning. People can be so horrible without knowing you, so evil. So it's distasteful at times, but I'm confident and I go to sleep at night knowing that I'm having a go for the right reason.
So, I just want to take a step back because politics, for me, I find it very fascinating because politicians, to me, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, I don't know. But I think they lie all the time. They make you promises that they know they will never, ever keep. For example, every time leading up to an election, they will come up with their massive promise. So Lib Dems are promising we're going to recognize the state of Palestine. Labour saying pretty much same thing. And then once they're voted in, it's like Brexit. Oh, we didn't know this. Oh, we didn't know that. Oh, we didn't expect this. Oh, we didn't anticipate that. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you completely. When I heard that the Tories had put forward national service, I heard that on Radio 4 and I just burst out laughing, right? If the Conservatives wanted national service, and national service, not necessarily the military form, but like a national citizen service, It
exists in some of the Arab countries still.
Yes, and in Switzerland where I lived, all the youngsters have to do national service. The Tory base, and the Reform base would mostly love that. But they are just lying. That will never happen. David Cameron, when he was running for office, also said that. I can remember seeing big billboard adverts in Aldgate. Let's have a national citizen service, like David Cameron, the Conservatives. Once they got elected, you never heard hide nor hair of it. They'll say anything. Power corrupts people. And unfortunately, I think politics attracts several personality types, I would say one of those personality types is people that couldn't get a proper job in the real world, right? There's no question to me that there are some people that can talk a good book. They haven't ever done anything. They could never get paid that well, so they go into politics. I think there's others that are their ego gets in the room before they do, right? And it doesn't matter how much money they got. They love the limelight and they love being the centre of things. And then I think there's people that are like me who genuinely feel that things could be better and genuinely feel if I got close to it, I think I could help people.
Look, politicians, they deflect a lot. You ask them a question, they answer something else. I mean, what are your views on what I've just said before? People lie, they mislead, politicians mislead, they will make you all the promises in the world just to get the votes, and then they're nowhere to be seen. So where do you stand as a person? I'm sure you're a human being, you're an intelligent human being. What's your thoughts? I don't want to hear about Tories or Labours or Lib Dems. I want to know about you.
I wouldn't promise anything that I didn't think I could either deliver or that I wasn't going to absolutely go for. Because I don't want power for the sake of having power. I don't need this job. I would love to do it, but I would only say the truth, because the thing is, if you lie like this, you get caught out, right? And that's that saying, like every I forget who said it now, but every political career ends in failure, right? Well, that's largely true, and I think that's largely true because they overpromise and underdeliver.
Just like Brexit.
Brexit is absolutely underdelivered at this time. Yes, it is.
So when are they going to recover from the lies that they've made? Are they going to ever deliver? Because you guys came with the view that, look, we're going to be independent and we're going to do our own things and, we're going to make our own rules up. But that's not going to happen, is it? It's never going to happen because you're part of this whole ecosystem. But people have been fooled.
I agree that people have been fooled. I believe that Brexit has been not fully delivered. What should have happened is that we should have been independent. We are in name, but then we should be free to set our interest rates and our tax rates at very, very competitive rates to encourage business. You see, the UK being offshore of this huge market, that means that we can, if we wanted to, we could attract all the businesses in the world here because we've got a free trade agreement
you'd
with the
do it
EU.
again. I mean, if it happened,
Absolutely.
you would do it again.
No
but
question.
It's all screwed up though. I mean, look at NHS. I myself, you know what I have to do when I want an appointment? I have a trick. If you go to the surgery or call in, they will say, wait a month or something. So my trick is I will say, can I have a consultation? And then when the doctor calls me, then I'll say, can I come and see you? It does the trick. But look, there are some people who go out in the night, they're waiting 7 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours. It hasn't fixed anything. And that was your primary slogan, primary promise,
Okay.
NHS. All the nurses are leaving, it's been chaotic.
Okay. That wasn't my promise. Okay.
Promise that you backed.
Right. No, I didn't back that promise. I backed Brexit, right? And what Brexit meant to me.
So were you fooled as well then in that case, are you saying?
Well, Brexit has been under-delivered, yes. Yes, so yes. But you are conflating us being ruled from Brussels versus us being ruled.
But you guys rule the world. You guys rule the world. Like,
Let me finish.
You know deep down you guys rule the world.
Let me finish.
A small island, when you're landing from a plane, you see like how big England is, Britain is. It's small, but you guys control the entire world effectively. So what more do you want?
Can I finish?
Yes.
Right. I think going back to your earlier point, I think you're conflating Brexit, which was about are we ruled from Brussels or are we ruled from Westminster? Can we vote the politicians out if we stay in the EU? No. Can we hand them their flipping removal van? Yeah, yes, we can, and we are going to do that now, right? I think you're conflating that with the management of the NHS. Now, on that subject, okay, my mum fell over. She had dementia, and I was part of her care team for 3 years. My mum, with dementia, fell over and broke her hip.
Very sad to hear.
And waited for the ambulance with a broken hip on the floor. This is a woman that's 80, at that time she's 86 years old. She waited for 2 hours for an ambulance. 2 hours. And so, make no mistake, I know that the NHS is partly underfunded, partly badly run, and something needs to be fixed with it. So I'm on the NHS, I'm totally with you. I also call up for a doctor's appointment, and sometimes it's 2 weeks. It's not good enough. We're the 6th biggest economy in the world. We should be able to just wander into the doctor and see them.
Yeah, one wonders, why is it that we have homeless people on the streets of Britain? I mean, that's something that you'd expect in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, but why in a first world country like Britain?
Very simple. Our priorities are wrong. Our priorities are wrong in this country.
We're backing wrong people.
We are, the wrong people have had power for far, far too long. When it comes to the sharing of our enormous, gargantuan tax take, when it comes to that, somehow we've always got money to join in someone else's war. We've always got money to go to warm places and get involved in someone else's business. We've always got billions of pounds to give to Ukraine. But at the same time, we have homeless people, graffiti, rubbish on the streets, can't get a doctor's appointment, nurses underpaid. How can we have a nurse, a qualified nurse, paying, I think they earn like 36 grand, right? We make them, not we, the Conservatives, make them pay for their own education, right? And then pay to park their car outside the hospital all day, only give them 36 grand a year, and yet an MP earns 70 grand a year. Civil servants can earn up to £300,000 a year. Gary Lineker earns 1.3 million per year. These are taxpayer-funded people. How can they happen?
Have you looked into Singapore, how Singapore operates?
I know Singapore quite well. I spend some time there because lots of my cold cases wind up in the Singapore arbitration system. So, it's a place that I've
So what
been
can we
to.
take from them? I mean, it seems to be working for them. They've navigated through Brexit, not Brexit, sorry, COVID, like everyone else did. I mean, what are they doing differently? From what I've learned about Singapore is they actually incentivize and pay their politicians very well, so they don't have to go and do other things under the table to make their ends meet.
Yeah, well, that's one thing, and it's clear from riding around Singapore in taxis, which I get to do something like 4 times a year. There aren't graffitied houses. There aren't people sleeping in the street. So, what can Britain learn from Singapore and from Switzerland? A great deal. But we will not learn anything. We will not be able to learn anything from how these smart countries work under first past the post, because we will continue to get Labour or Conservative.
So what is your party going to do? I mean, is Mr. Farage going to sort it all out? Or is he just trying to make some noise and then disappear again after the election?
I'm not sure Nigel will ever disappear anywhere, bless him. No, I think...
I do like the way he talks. I do like the way he talks. He just talks straight. But I don't know if he's talking BS or is he actually talking facts?
No, he is a guy. So interestingly, he's from kind of my markets, right? So he was a metals broker.
Yeah.
Right. And I know the companies that he worked for. He would have earned a great deal more money if he hadn't have switched his life to being focused on politics. And what is he going to do? Well, I think reform, reform, basically, we have a 6-year plan. And that plan, the first part of that is playing out now. And it will see, I think, the destruction of the Conservative Party in some form, which will be no bad thing. And at that point, if we can start to get reform people into points of opposition, because we aren't politicians, it's a new party. None of us have ever done this before. We know how to run businesses. We know what it's like to go to court.
Startup in politics, yeah?
That's right. And so we will turn up and try and tell the truth. And in maybe not this general election, but the next one, reform might have broken this two-party hold on our country, which has done nothing but manage decline since 1947.
So talking of truth, imagine you guys were elected and you guys had some influence. Would you then stop backing Israel?
I would refer you to my earlier comments. I don't think we should be involved in other people's stuff. We shouldn't be involved. We should.
Do you know you could be under attack by saying all of this stuff that you're saying from whoever, from the lobbyists?
Who cares? I don't care.
Well, you don't care, like.
What the people will say that I disagree with you and you should have said this, and you should have said that. That happens all the time. The difference is I'm sitting here and I've funded my own deposit to do this. If I win, I'm taking a massive pay cut, right? I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm just going to say what I think, and I don't think Britain should be getting involved and spending money on other people's arguments when there's so much that we need to focus on back here.
But isn't that how Britain was built? I mean, look, India, 200 years. After 200 years, you guys came back. And then we followed you back.
Well, listen, I work with Indian people 3 days a week, and we have some very spirited conversations at the pub about cricket, about Imperial Britain, and all this stuff. And lots of times I have to fall back on the it wasn't me, I'm Irish thing, right? Mm-hmm. Right. But just because Britain's past happens to be that Britain was first to the Industrial Revolution, and Britain's empire was the biggest and the most successful. It doesn't mean that Britain has to be the Britain going forward. Times have changed, and now I think we should be a little bit more like Singapore. I think we should be a little bit more like
they're very welcoming. They're very strict on one sense, disciplined on one sense, but at the same time, they're very entrepreneurial. And some of the Middle Eastern countries like UAE, Qatar, they're very entrepreneurial. I mean, they've got their own structure going, but like every other country in the world, they have got their own structure going. Britain has got its own structure going, and I think no one else has the right to say how Britain should be run. Equally, Britain shouldn't have the say on how someone else should live their life.
Couldn't agree more.
So why does
none of our business.
Why does Mr. Farage keep going on media and saying all these, unfriendly stuff to people like us? He wants us gone.
I don't think he does.
Then there has to be some misalignment somewhere. Or is he just saying it just to kind of distract people?
Are you saying, and listen, if you've got questions for Mr. Farage, you need to ask him, right? But
Well, he's appointed you, hasn't he?
Well, Richard did, but I've met Nigel Farage, and I've spoken to him, and I can put my hand on my heart and say, I don't think you just mentioned something. He wants to get rid of you. I don't think he does. In fact, I know he doesn't.
So what does he want then? Why does he say it if he doesn't want it?
What does he say?
That we're a problem. We're a problem to this country.
Who is?
Muslims, Asians, immigrants.
All right. Okay. Let's just unpack that. Britain needs immigration to be able to grow because Brits don't have enough babies, right? Okay.
That's another topic for another day for sure.
Yes, right. Or maybe Brits do have sufficient babies, and actually this mixing of our demographic from our Commonwealth, which is one of my favourite institutions. Only the Brits have exited empire back in the day, right, and turned it into a colourblind family of equals. I'm very, very proud of the Commonwealth. And so Commonwealth immigration has been fantastic for our country. Goodness knows, you have no idea what the food was like before you guys turned up. And thank goodness you did, right? And obviously we've had immigration from the West Indies after the war to basically rebuild or to staff the NHS, to rebuild our railways and other things. And all of that's welcome, and our country's better off for having a more cosmopolitan base. There is no question. And I know Nigel, and not well, but I know Nigel, and I know Nigel would say the same things as me. He is colourblind, and he is religion blind, like me. But what matters, though, is if someone's doing something illegal, right? I think that needs to be unpacked. Then an illegal thing is an illegal thing. It doesn't matter who your God is or whether you're brown or white, right? The thing that's illegal is wrong, right? And with regards immigration, obviously I knew that we were going to touch on boats and all those other things. Well, as someone who found out during lockdown 2 that my DNA comes from Irish people clinging to a boat to get here to improve their life. I mean, it's a very interesting thing to find out about yourself. That actually, because I felt English, right? I felt enormously English, and but then I can remember when I opened up my Ancestry.com DNA. It's like a presentation, and it started playing like Irish fiddle music, and I'm thinking, what's this? Oh my goodness me, I'm Irish. And so,
were you disappointed or were you happy? How did you feel?
I was at first. I was neither, but I was a bit shocked. I knew that my mum's, my nan's dad. So what's that? My great grandfather was Irish, and we were tailors in Dublin. So I mean, I knew that. So I figured I would be like a quarter Irish. But then my DNA came up like 97% or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, Farage, Mr. Farage, I say it with respect because in our religion, in our culture, we're supposed to respect the elders. And like yourself, I have to respect you as well. That's how we are brought up. So Mr. Farage, he's very divisive. I mean, you may say one thing and you may not believe it. I mean, that's your problem. But what you say has an impact on other people that follow you. Listen to what you say. Is it not quite irresponsible for them to just, dish out promises, immigration control and this and that, and, Windrush and sending people to Rwanda, and, it's all madness, isn't it?
Yes, but of course none of those things are anything to do with Nigel. None of those things would have happened if not Nigel was our Prime Minister.
But he's the vocal guy that talks about immigration. I mean, none of the other parties, they talk about immigration as vocally as he does.
Yeah, but I think, and I think that's right. And I think it's absolutely right to talk about immigration, separating that from whether the immigrant is white and a Catholic, or brown and a Muslim, or brown and a Hindu, If we can just separate our colour and what we call God and how we talk to him, right? If a country like ours has a socialised health service, which is a wonderful thing that sets us apart from so many other countries in the world.
It does. It certainly does.
Right? If we've, for whatever reason, if our health service is funded to the point that it can happily service 60 million people, the moment we go over 60 million, right, regardless of colour or religion or anything, the moment it goes to 66, well, what happens? Well, wards get bigger, wait times get longer, right? And what's happened is immigration has outpaced the amount of money that we've put into the National Health Service, which is why it's so ridiculously stretched. And it's the same thing for, you know, social workers, roads, houses, right? If we can house happily 66 million, but through one reason or another we wind up being 80 million, then you've got to think, well, where do we put the people?
Maybe we can build some more. Maybe just be less focused on major cities and, start building a bit more in empty places, because this country has a lot of empty lands.
I agree.
So I don't think it's the quota or that limit or the cap. I think something that you touched on before, you're not making enough babies. And I think the problem that you guys have is other people are making enough babies, and over time they're just increasing in numbers. And I think that's what your problem is. And you don't want to fund that.
Well, okay, let me say, let's just unpack that, right? Firstly, I think where the West has gone wrong, right? We could have invested in North Africa. We could have invested in the Indian subcontinent. We could have bought solar farms there, wind farms. We could have built resorts.
You guys don't want to invest. You just want to take everything.
Right?
Wherever you go, you just want to take it.
But listen to what I'm saying, right? This is, remember, you're talking about, I can't apologise for...
No, I'm not asking for any apologies. I'm just trying to have a discussion.
For greedy Tories that have got everything wrong. Everything, lately, right? But what I'm saying is, the West could have done that, right? Why isn't the parts of Africa, why isn't it the kind of world's power station, for goodness sake? When it's got wind and sun. Why? Why does that area have to be poor? The thing is, if the West keeps it poor, well, the water's going to run out, which is probably the next World War, actually, and the people are going to start to exit that area, and that's what's happened. And so the West's greed in keeping money or offshoring it to flipping Grand Cayman or whatever.
Switzerland, maybe. Maybe that's another reason why it's safe, because everyone's money belongs there.
Not everyone. And the Swiss are much better at the laundering thing than they used to be. That's something that I know. But so I mean, the West is reaping the kind of whirlwind of policies such that were with the European Union, for instance, where there would be African nations, Indian subcontinent nations, couldn't sell to the EU certain products because the EU was is a kind of trade area, with high walls, right? The West could have, and Britain should have, and should now, trade with Africa, trade with India, and the wealth gets shared that way. And what's happening to us now is because of this, we've had the EU's a very protectionist thing. And one of the things that I thought Brexit would bring would be trade deals with the whole Commonwealth. Turn the Commonwealth into a free trade area, right? And we can share the wealth. Britain can build factories in those countries. Train people. They can earn. And, we haven't done that. And the Conservatives, who have been the party of government in this country since the war, there have been a few administrations with Labour that tend to come in for a period when the Conservatives really screw things up, right? So Labour administrations only last 3 max. This one will last 1. But it's the Conservatives that have been the party of government, and there is no one else to blame as to our being here now.
So when would all these political parties stop using NHS as a guinea pig or as a tool, emotional tool to manipulate people? Because it's always a political agenda. NHS, we're going to do this for NHS because people know, like, they're afraid of their ill health, and they care for the elderly, and they would be manipulated by the NHS. Why can't something else be a big subject? Why is it always the NHS that's the main? It's like negotiating tool. Oh, we're going to do this for you. We're going to do this for you. But
no, it is. You're absolutely right. And I'm old now.
But you probably have private healthcare, so you're all right.
Do you know what? I don't.
No, you don't.
No. I probably
Hard
should.
to believe a politician, though.
I'm not a politician.
Well, you are going to be. Well, you are.
Well, I thank you for your confidence. No, I don't. I mean, I did have when I was in Switzerland, because it's the law. Everyone's got to have it, right? You can't not have it.
So they don't have a social healthcare system.
Yeah, there is a kind of backup system there, but that's funded because the people there that earn a shed load of money, and there's a lot of money in that country, right? They pay handsomely for their medical services. I used to pay 350 francs a month out of my salary, right?
But at least, you would get the attention that you deserve.
Oh, but the service was amazing. You would, I had occasion to go to A&E once, there, and you drive up and park your car outside A&E, and walk in, right? No fee for the car. See someone in 2 minutes. The place is kind of half empty. There's more doctors walking about, more doctors and nurses walking about. I mean, it's another world. So it shows that it's possible, right? Here, you get that. I think because the NHS is so amazing, the idea was so amazing.
And was it Labour that formed it? Or?
Absolutely. Although saying that, it's the seeds of it were in the coalition government during the war, but it's absolutely Labour that did it.
So we have to give credit where it's due, right?
No question. Absolutely no question. But since then, politicians from Labour and Conservative have this competition as to who's going to give the most, who's really the one that loves the NHS most. You used to get this kind of thing in elections in the past, and we may see it in the coming weeks. 48 hours to save the NHS. You will get Labour people saying you have 48 hours, to save the NHS.
It's fascinating how. I mean, look, I deal with a lot of people through this show. I get to see some comments and people do. So people are listening to you guys, I mean, you guys have a platform, and whatever you say, effectively, even if it's not directly, indirectly, it does rub off on people. So I find it very disappointing that NHS is being used as a manipulation tactic by, I guess, both parties. But you guys have a chance though, like a Reform Party. It seems like what the media shows is worse than what it actually is. So why don't you guys shed some positivity instead of saying, oh, it's all doom and gloom and, we're going to do this and we're going to do this negative stuff and bad stuff. Like, I'm sure, obviously, we've seen it on TV shows. Nigel Farage is quite vocal. So why don't you guys instead go for some positivity? Because I think that's what people need the most at the moment, positivity.
Can I read to you one of my quotes which went out with one of my posters? One of my friends said I shouldn't use this photo in my campaign because I look too happy. Sure, I'm angry at what the Tories have done to our country and saddened that New Labour is back, which means more immigration, more EU, more unemployment. But I'm nevertheless full of hope. In no particular order, the UK is the Industrial Revolution, Magna Carta, Newton, Darwin, penicillin, the English language, Shakespeare, Austen, Dickens, an empire that became a colourblind commonwealth of equals, the NHS, the Beatles, James Bond, Harry Potter, the defeat of Nazism, scones with jam and cream, Routemaster buses, red phone boxes, nicking other people's antiquities and keeping a straight face, pretending we invented gin and tea, chicken tikka masala, penalty missing, middle order collapsing, and rain pissing down on Wimbledon every summer. This is the best country on the planet, but with the worst set of politicians in our history. Wow. It's time for a political earthquake.
And perhaps a reform.
Vote for me. Vote for me in Bethnal Green.
So look, these are all, I mean, they're very nice. I like it. But why does Mr. Farage say otherwise then? I mean,
I'm not entirely sure he does.
Yes, he does. That's why someone threw something on his face, I'm sure, because he made some people angry.
Oh, come on.
I don't endorse it. I don't endorse what they've done.
People throw things over Nigel from all angles and would even more if he was in the street more. Give me an example of what you think he's said specifically, and I'll try and put that into either perspective or I'll call him out and say he was wrong.
Nigel Farage, he is very close to Trump, and you know what Trump stands for.
Yes.
He's very vocal and open, just like Mr. Farage.
Yes. And
that's quite big on Islamophobia. I don't say Islamophobia, it's Muslimophobia, the way I look at it. It's hatred towards Muslims. That's what comes across on this side of the television screen.
Mm. Yeah. So with regards Nigel and Trump, I think with Trump, it's important to look at like what America was like under him and what America's like under Biden. Trump has the same approach to getting involved in other people's business as Farage and me. Shouldn't do it. None of our business. Costs too much money. Always get it wrong, right? Biden's not like that, right? Biden's absolutely not like that. And I think that it's easy for Muslims in our country to get the wrong end of the stick with regards what the majority of us think and do, right? So I would say that the majority of us, and I know this is true from my friends, and my friends are a load of working, like people like me, working class people, from my
No, you're not a working
background.
class. You're a businessman. And
Well, I am now.
business people tend to speak a different language, which is a universal business language. And they don't see color. They don't see any differences. It's all about the transaction and the deal at hand. So
Correct.
So you're not a working class. You're a businessman who speaks a different language.
I'm absolutely from the working class. I'm proud to be from it, and it has guided my views and actions, right? And so, I'd like to, but I like what you said. You realise that we're colourblind, right? And that's great.
In some context, though, like for example, and I'm going to bring it back to the issue of Middle East, Gaza, and Israel, Palestine and Israel. I mean, for Mr. Farage is not going to condemn Israel, is he? I mean, he's quite adamant that Israel has the right to defend herself. I mean, it's not really defense, is it? It's more of an offense.
Well, the argument there is of course based on there wouldn't be and there absolutely is. It's not defence at the moment. You're absolutely right. It is offence, but of course there wouldn't be any offence or anything if they hadn't gone into Israel and chopped off babies' heads.
Or perhaps if the Balfour Treaty didn't take place, signing off someone else's house and land without them even consenting to it. You guys have land registry in this country for a reason, right? For safety, protection, so you can tax people properly, inheritance tax, this tax, that tax. How comes that same rule doesn't apply elsewhere? The land registry.
Well, it should. And as much as I am proud of being British and super proud of the Commonwealth, I really can't take any responsibility for the Balfour Treaty. You know that, right?
I mean, it's a reoccurring theme, though. I mean, we have the chance now to do ceasefire, but it's not going to happen, is it? Even for the next 100 years, it's not going to happen. They say it, and these are all going to be, to get the last few votes in, through the doors. But ultimately, once they win, it's all the same.
Would you like me to tell you what I hope for?
Please do.
In that area. I mean, it isn't any of my business, but I do business in that part of the world. What I hope for is that Hamas gives back the hostages.
Which they've agreed to do.
Can I finish?
Yes, sure.
Hamas gives back the hostages. Israel lays down its guns. Everybody can go back to living in peace. A wall of money is put in that region to rebuild the place, so as people have great lives. You see, it's very, very difficult to be an angry terrorist kind of person if you're wealthy and your kids go and you've got a job and your kids go to a great school and the wife is safe, right? The answer to extremism on all sides is let's build the wealth. And in that area, there is as nearly as much money as there is in the entire world, right? The Arab nations are extraordinarily wealthy, right? The West and the Arab nations could come together and make that area a paradise.
They can, but they don't want to.
Well, you asked me what I hope for,
yeah.
and if I was in charge, I'm not sure I ever would be, but if I was in charge, that's what I would work for.
Amazing. I mean, these are all very good hopes and ambitions and anticipations for sure. So, Rushan Ara Ali, the current, or not the current, the MP that we know for Bethnal Green and Stepney, what do you have to say? Because surely this I'm also a constituent. Is that the correct? I'm a voter.
Yes.
So I feel I've been let down. I mean, surely an MP is supposed to represent and be your voice in the parliament.
Yes.
She hasn't. And that's not me saying it. That's what everything, all the evidences, all the paper, all the media are saying.
Yes.
So what have you got to say? And how are you going to integrate with your voters?
So what would I say to her, first of all, to take the first part of your question? Join me in a hustings. Don't be scared, right? Challenge me. Let's get a room full of Bethnal Green and Stepney people of every flipping colour that we can find, right? And put us some questions. I challenge her via your wonderful podcast to do that. I doubt she'll agree.
Why? Why has she got to hide?
I think let's just say, I don't think she'd have been as comfortable answering your questions as I am.
Okay. And do you think there's a underlying reason for it? What could it be? Because ultimately it is the community that have voted her in for a number of times. They have backed her from many angles, including the mosques. So people do feel let down on the issue of, I mean, forget everything else. She's quite, from what I've seen and her appearance on television and in Parliament, she's inactive. But on the issue of Palestine, people are very sentimental, as I am, of course, as well. And they feel let down. How is Peter going to, let's hope, or let's imagine you've won.
Yep.
How are you going to represent those people in Parliament? Because they want a ceasefire. They want a representation of the community in the Parliament.
Yeah. How would that happen? And what would I do? I would take a presence on Bethnal Green Road and put a big sign over so people know where to go. And I'd have that staffed all the time. I would work there. I would have a team that worked there. And if people needed anything, they could come see me. Now, that sounds like revolutionary, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's what MPs should, that's what they're paid to do, right? But actually what they wind up doing is going on telly, going to cocktail parties, getting their face in the paper. None of that stuff matters. What matters is being on the ground, seeing people, helping them, being compassionate. And at times, yes, you would take the view from the area and express it in Parliament. And my expression of that particular world problem that we've got is we absolutely need hostages back, ceasefire, build the area up, turn it into a paradise.
Wow, this is a very noble intention. And I pray to God, I don't know if you believe in God or not, but I do pray to God that people are returning to peace sooner rather than later. Because I have children, you have children, I'm sure. Mm. And some of the images that play out on social media and TV, it's unbearable. Because
I agree.
And then at that point you think, if I'm feeling so angry just seeing this, what are people going to do when they're actually experiencing it?
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, there isn't any war that's ever panned out as being nice. I mean, it's all hell. I was listening this morning, I think on the radio, where they said that when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, they killed, I forget what the number was, forgive me if I get it wrong, but in Pearl Harbor they killed 6,000 people or something. Well, the Americans went on to kill 3 million Japanese people. Now, forget, there's going to be someone out there that's going to have access to Wikipedia where I don't. But it's a relatively small but horrific number, and of course it's a huge number. And I mean the same thing happened to Germany. Germany invaded Poland and other countries and killed tens of thousands of people, and the reaction to that was the absolute destruction of Germany. We turned parts of Germany into a car park, right? These things never end well. And so ending it soon is something that I'm pleased you're going to pray for. I don't believe in God. I follow Buddhism more. Which is based on karma. Mm-hmm. And I think that as a quasi-Buddhist, but para-Buddhist, the only thing I can possibly say is to hope for peace and work for it in as much as one can by saying the right things in forums like this. Absolutely.
Peter, there's so much that we can talk about. I mean, I thought our discussion would just end within 30 minutes or something because it's just going to be about politics and, that's it. But it seems as though we connect more than we differ. I mean, my thinking was, the thinking that painted by Mr. Farage was like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into today? But it seems like you're a human being, I'm a human being, and we're just having a discussion. You're a businessman and I'm also a businessman. So effectively, we can have a dialogue. And I think your party will do a bit more to really invite people to come and talk more as opposed to divide. I mean, and I hope, and this is, I'm just going by with what the media is saying, because I do listen to LBC radio a lot, James O'Brien in particular, amazing guy, amazing host. So I just want to end with a couple of questions. Your preference, if you didn't get elected, if you didn't win, who would you rather win? Miss Ali, Mr. Masroor, or Miss Khan or Mrs. Khan? From Lib Dem. So Khan is from Lib Dem. Masroor is he's an independent. And you've got Rushanara Ali from Labour Party as it stands. And there's another one, Barrister Sham or something. Yeah, Barrister Sham Uddin. So who would you rather win if you didn't win?
I don't want any of them to win.
No, we're going to have a draw in that case. I mean, if no one wins, there has to be someone that's going to win. And what does your heart lean towards?
Look, if there's one of them who has the idea to have a presence on Bethnal Green Road where you can go and see him every day, I would say I want that guy to win. But I think my approach is although it's what we're MPs are meant to do, I think it's actually quite rare, because I think lots of people are in this to earn money and get attention. I don't really want the attention, and like I said before, this would be a flipping pay cut if I get this job.
So look, you're on camera, and what would you say about Corbyn? I mean, his ideologies, his thinking, his approach. I mean, in one hand, I don't know him well enough to comment, but from what I've seen on media, he stands with justice, something that you also have been propagating in the last an hour and a half. So what are your thoughts?
When he became the leader of the Labour Party, I actually had some hopes for that party, because I thought that he would stand much more for those old Labour values which, like I said, when I was 15, which I could recognise and I could get with, right? Because, I mean, all of my family, prior to my dad, all of my family would have, voted Labour from the year dot, right? When he took power, he seemed, I think he fluffed it, because when it actually came to the big questions with Brexit, he was really nowhere. He didn't really say much. He was very anti-EU in his career, as all those old socialists were. They saw the old socialists, Peter Shaw, Wedgwood Ben, saw the European Union as a vehicle for big corporations and a vehicle for keeping working class salaries down, right? Which is exactly what it does, right? I thought he would carry on with that honesty and passion that he had shown. But instead, he went very quiet on that. He was previously friendly towards proportional representation, which I think would be a much better system than first past the post. He was silent on that.
But isn't it better to stay quiet on things that you don't agree with and things that you can't deliver on? Maybe that was the club he's from. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to deliver anything on that front, so he stayed quiet.
When you're a leader, when you're a businessman, I did my research before coming here, right? When you're a leader, you lead. You give the direction, right? As a leader, I think he should have said clearly the things I expected him to say.
Yeah, but it's not just buzzwords though, Peter. You have to, if I'm a leader, I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to go for that decision, I'm going to deliver on that decision.
Right.
No good just saying, we're going to do a Brexit and then nowhere to be seen, Mr. Farage.
Well, all policies and all things that ever happen in the world start with an idea and an intention.
And execution.
And then you have to execute. But the idea and the intention comes first, right?
Yeah.
So I think where Corbyn let himself down was that he should have stood up and said, okay, I am old Labour values. I want the minimum wage up to 15. I want no working class people that earn up to 25 not to pay tax. I'm pro-Brexit or I'm anti-Brexit. He didn't do that. He kind of fudged. And he would sometimes, I think, get sidelined by things that didn't matter. It's very, very easy for politicians, I think.
But there's so many, there's so many nuances within a group, a party. There's so many, I would never want to be a prime minister. I mean, not even an MP, because you are exposing yourself to so many different angles. So many people are thinking in a different way. Some are positive, some are negative. And these are all highly intelligent people who are working against you. So I'm sure it's not easy to be a party leader. So, I mean, my problem is with politics is a lot of intention, a lot of manifestation, but it never gets delivered. That's my problem with all politicians. Look, Britain was built, but we haven't seen any increase recently. Everything that we are seeing is already been built years ago. The only thing that was new, I think, it was the Elizabeth line. What else? What else is new?
Yeah, I mean, even when they tried to build HS2, which was an error from the start. Look what happened. They ballsed that up completely.
Yeah,
but I challenge you on the idea and intention thing. I think it should be completely okay to say to people, right? this is my direction, right? I'm going to do everything I can to get there. Let's say it's it's getting the minimum wage up to £15. Let's say that's it. A very valid thing, right? I think it's perfectly okay to say that, have that as an aim, because when you set goals, you find that that your actions fall into place behind it. John F. Kennedy said before the end of this decade, he said this in 62, 63, we will put a man on the moon. It seemed impossible at that time. He had an intention, and the Americans did it.
And they delivered, and he's the same man that lost his life as well.
He did.
For what he believed in.
That's right.
Unfortunately, we can't really hold our politicians accountable. I mean, in a company, in a business, if someone does something wrong, there's a procedure in place. Why is it that an MP gets voted in, through whatever means, PR, manipulation, whatever you want to call it, empty promises, and then people are left, holding the bag for 4 years until the next time round, and then they start making more promises. I mean, when is this ever going to end?
Yeah. I think it will. I think while we've got first past the post, you will have the kind of scene that you've got at the moment, which is the Conservatives coming out with stuff like national service and like tax cuts, right? The economy's in a mess. The country's broke, right? And we are weeks from the election, and the Conservatives now come up with tax cuts. I mean, it's utterly absurd. Utterly absurd.
These guys are just playing games with us, I think. I really think that they're just playing a game, and people are unfortunately fooled. I mean, they don't have a choice, though. I mean, the good thing about this election is there's a lot of independent choices, which I think is good, and they're not really bound by any party rules or politics or I mean, personally, I think politics should be about serving people and really putting the interests of people first, and I think that's what democracy means.
I agree.
But unfortunately, democracy has been screwed up. It's really in a very bad shape at the moment because it's been manipulated, and maybe not by the party themselves, maybe external influences. External influences, I mean, Middle Eastern influences. Normally you think Middle East is crisis and terrorism, but there are Middle Eastern countries who have got the world by their, sorry to say, balls.
Yeah. Well,
how are you Brits going to break free from it? Because you guys are known to be that empire, the civilization that did stuff, that led your own way. But unfortunately, it seems like you guys have been also manipulated.
Yeah, well, I think where we went wrong, where my country went wrong, is that it had just turned empire into Commonwealth, and it turned its back on the Commonwealth and all our friends, and we got in bed with the French and the Germans, and the EU was a bureaucratic nightmare and an enormous policy fudge, and Britain wasted all of those years when we could have been building our country, our wealth, and lifting the Commonwealth.
Yep. Look, it's we can talk all day, but I just want to make a correction when I say Brits. I mean, I am a British citizen myself as well, so we're part of it. By voting, we're taking part, and we're all in it together. And I hope my representation will be different moving forward with different MPs with different views. And I mean, from what I've heard, it sounds like you guys are very clear cut in your approach with the Reform Party. So we'll just have to wait and see, what you guys are about as well over time. If you do win any seats, and what you guys do, if you guys deliver on the promises and ideas But I want to end our discussion. I think it has been very fruitful.
I've really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it myself as well. I mean, I haven't been like this with any other guest, so I'm so sorry if your audiences think, I'm misbehaving and mistreating. I do apologize. That's not my natural self. But for the purpose of our audience and as a constituent, I was just asking you questions as a constituent. Like you could be my future MP. I mean, who knows?
Well, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So, what's your favorite quickfire question? Just be as simple as possible, and we're going to end it with that. What's your favorite politician in history?
My favorite politician in history. Can I have two?
Not one.
Well, then, for all of these issues, it would be Churchill because of what he did for our country during the Second World War.
One word that describes the Conservative Party.
Wankers. Am I allowed to say that? Yeah. You can go.
Favorite childhood memory.
Favourite childhood memory? Oh my goodness. Favourite childhood memory? Hang on. Going with Dad and my cousin to the first Spurs match. Yeah, I've just lost all the Arsenal supporters. Going to the first Spurs match, it would have been 69 or 70. And we beat Nottingham Forest 6-1. So I won't ever forget that day.
Wow. And what would be your last meal if you were to die today?
If I was to die today, my last meal, and I'm not just saying that because you guys are from the Indian subcontinent, but it would be paneer tikka.
Nice.
All day long.
Great choice.
Yeah.
I hope that's the truth, though, because it's very difficult to believe the politicians. Sorry, nothing about you, but it's just a politician thing. And the last one, I promise you it's going to be the last one. What is your greatest fear as a person?
My greatest fear as a person is that I die before I've finished what I want to do in my life. That's my greatest fear.
Peter, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your perspectives and thoughts. As I said before, we seem to agree more than we disagree, so that's a good thing, good start. And I hope we can keep our conversations open. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed it. I could sit here for hours.
If you have enjoyed our conversation, don't forget to comment below with any comments or any questions or guest recommendations. And don't forget to subscribe onto the platform you are tuned into. With that said, I will see you on the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.